Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spinsterella. Discover the dark side of love in this goth and lovely romance with Spinsterella. Get Spinsterella in paperback and e-readers at your favorite online bookseller today. I was reading an article on theundefeated.com that asked the question, where did the love go? And it proposed this question because in today's black music, love songs are becoming harder and harder to find. Well, the answer to that question is very simple. There aren't that many black love songs because black people no longer control the mainstream media anymore, and they don't have access to the mainstream media anymore so they can get their music to the marketplace. Now, your mainstream media these days is controlled by a big five these days, and that big five group of oligarchs only want to promote images and media that elevate whites and some non-blacks to a higher level. And they only want to promote the love of whites and non-blacks, and they have no real interest in going out here and promoting music that promotes black love, because black love runs counter to their business model, because when you promote things like black love in music, what happens is you take money out of your business, because most of these businesses that are white owned, they want people's eyeballs focused on white people, and they want people focused on their white performers. So they don't want people promoting black on black love, because when you promote black on black love, they can't profit from that. No, what they want you to do is promote songs that promote the love of white people. So that's one of the reasons why we don't hear many black R&B music on the radio anymore or see it promoted in the mainstream. Now, the other reason why we don't see many black R&B and hip-hop songs that promote black love is because there aren't many production companies out there that make black love songs anymore. Now, back in the days of Jim Crow, we had Motown. Now, Motown was very important because Motown was a black-owned music studio, and it was a black-owned music studio that was created to promote music like R&B, because most black musicians could not work for the music studios, because the white music studios had no interest in promoting black music. So black musicians had to go to places like Motown and small independent record companies, and they had to go to small black-owned radio stations to get their music promoted. So we don't have those institutions anymore. A lot of those institutions have been bought up by the big five corporate media, and because they've been bought up by the big five corporate media, we don't see money places for black music to get sold, black music to get distributed, and black music, especially black love songs and black R&B, to find an audience, because most companies don't want to produce it. And again, we don't have that many black-owned music stations anymore, because a lot of the black music stations were bought up after the Telecommunications Bill of 1996 created the media oligarchy we have now, because before then, only one person could own one radio station in one area, one newspaper, and one TV station. That policy was designed so that we could get diversity of ideas and diversity of thought. But after Bill Clinton and the Republican Congress signed the Telecommunications Bill of 1996, corporations started buying up lots of radio stations, especially a lot of black-owned radio stations, and that led to a lot of stations like here in New York, 98.7 KISS FM, which was a station that played a lot of R&B. It led to that station now becoming an ESPN radio, and it led to other stations that used to play R&B like Hot 97, many others, changing their formats, and that was all due to the Telecommunications Bill of 96. So there aren't that many places for people to find black love songs on the radio. those who still listen to the radio, and it's even harder to find them online, and it's hard for a new artist to get discovered online because with streaming, you are just one voice in a million because you don't have the promotion machine that a company like a Motown used to give musicians back in the day. So a lot of it has to do with the changing platform for media thanks to that conglomeration of media. And a lot of it has to do that we don't have that many owners out there who own record companies that and distribution to get that music to people. Now, the other reason why we don't have that many songs that promote black love these days is also due to a complete change in the way black people see each other. Because a lot of black people these days, they have gotten caught up in this rhetoric of this gender war. And this gender war rhetoric, I believe, started in the late 60s with the feminist movement, and it led to this rift between black men and black women. Even though that was going on, starting there in the 60s, we still had a lot of creative people making black music, and they made black music all the way up until, I say, about the mid-90s, early 2000s, but the rhetoric was still going on shows like the Oprah Winfrey Show, which was talking all of these negative stereotypes and promoting these negative stereotypes about black men and demonizing black men. Then we had authors like your Alice Walkers, your Terry McMillans. They were producing these books that were demonizing black men. And again, it was all about slowly eroding the foundations for black love so that kids today and young adults today, they aren't really feeling inspired or passionate to create great black love songs like people did back in the 60s, back in the 70s, back in the 80s, and even back in the 90s. We had a lot of people who felt inspired because a lot of people grew up in two-parent households because they saw their mothers and fathers sharing love with each other. We had a lot of people who were building black families, and that's what inspired them to write a lot of great black love songs. And we had a lot of black musicians who grew up in healthy, loving environments. And because they grew up in loving, healthy environments, it inspired them to not only write great love songs, but it also inspired them to perform those songs with such great passion and such great heart because they felt the distinct experience of black on black love. And when you experience the distinct experience of black on black love, you can bring that love and that heart to either the song that you're writing or the song that you are performing because you have experienced that love, and that love is something that is a part of your life. But with the rise of the single parent household in the late 60s and early 70s, we started to see an erosion of black love that is happening today. And because a lot of people grew up in places like single parent households in the welfare state, and they experienced a lot of abuse in those homes, this is why it's become so hard to find black love in many creators, because many creators have not experienced black love and black on black love, and because they haven't experienced it, they can't really express it in song, they can't really express it in music, they can't really express it in art, and they can't express it in literature, and that's really reflected in a lot of what we're seeing right now, because if you go to a bookstore these days, the reason why we see so many books that promote interracial relationships between black women and white men, and black women and Asian men, and black women and Arab men, is because so many black women have grown up in single mother households in the welfare state. They've grown up with abusive relationships with black men, and they've never really experienced black love. So for them, an R&B song that like I grew up with in the 70s and the 80s and even the 90s, that's something that's alien to them because they have never experienced black love in their life. And because they have not experienced black love in their life, this is why your Gen Ys, your Millennials, and your Gen Zs don't really express much love in their songs, and they don't really express much love when their music does get played on these stations or even streamed, because they have not experienced much love in their life, and they have not seen another black man and another black woman coming together as something special. And the same thing is going on these days with a lot of black men these days. And what we're seeing now are a lot of black men who are out here saying things like they would rather have a relationship with a non-black woman. You got some black men out here talking about getting passports and going overseas to get foreign women. So the world around a lot of black folks is not about teaching black love or sharing black love. And again, the art, the literature, the music is only a reflection of what's transpiring during a time. And what's sad is during this time, we're seeing an era where black people are not expressing love for each other. And that's being shown to us in our art, in our literature, and in our music these days, because what's in our music these days is a reflection of what is going on in society. And again, all you have to do is go to a bookstore or Amazon.com, and you will see most of the books out there promoting interracial relationships between black women and white men, some of them even going as far as romanticizing concepts like slavery. And again, this is all a part of what is being reflected in the literature, and this is why we're not seeing all of the great black love songs like we used to get back in the day, because in order to get love songs, there needs to be love in a community, there needs to be love of self, love of community, love of family, and love of each other. And that's very hard to find these days, because most of the social media shows us constant, nonstop gender wars between black men and black women. And when you have kids who grew up for the last 10, 15 years seeing black men and black women at each other's throats on online, and that's what they grew up with, and then people from the previous generation seeing black men and black women at each other's throats on TV shows like Oprah Winfrey, Ricky Lake, Jenny Jones, and many other talk shows, then it becomes harder and harder for there to be inspiration to create media that shows black love. And it becomes harder to get that media when the media platforms have become conglomerated by things like the Telecommunications Bill of 1996, which cuts down on places where people can get music that expresses that love and music that shows that love to each other, because there aren't that many, again, radio stations out there like there were back in the day to broadcast these songs, because back in the day when you had black-owned radio stations went out of their way to promote black love songs, because they knew how important it was to teach the next generation to love themselves, because white supremacist media was not teaching any love of being black. All the time, they were promoting all of these coon images, these brute images, these mammy images in their media. So when black creators got control of a platform, they knew how important it was to promote black love on the air in their songs, because that love was the only thing that kept black people alive. But these days, a lot of black people are not getting that media, because some people have bought into the ideas of integration. They think that because we had the first black president, Barack Obama, we no longer need things like media that promotes black love in black music or black literature or black art. And that's why we're not seeing love songs on the air, because a lot of black people, some of them have taken the music they have for granted, and others have never really experienced or shared love with another black person, or seen love from another black person, namely the mother they grew up with, who taught them a culture of self-hatred. Because a lot of people who grew up in single mother households, They didn't learn how to love another black person. They learned to hate other black people, and they learned how to hate black people due to the way they were mistreated by other black people, sadly, in dysfunctional homes with the single mother and her man, her uncle, or her boyfriend, a man who probably in many cases abused many of those children. Those children never learned to see a father loving his wife and expressing love for his wife, or expressing affection for his wife, because that's another thing that is very important for somebody to get inspired, is to think about the experiences they had with seeing their mothers and fathers sharing love, and seeing even family members sharing love for each other. Because when you see your family sharing love, that's something that can inspire you to do something like write a love song, or like when I write novels like A Recipe for Success and Spinsterella. The inspiration for those love songs and those romances comes from my experiences seeing and experiencing black love. And we're not seeing a lot of that today because the environment a lot of kids, again, are growing up in is extremely hostile. And that's why we're seeing very little R&B and hip-hop songs that show that great love that black people have for each other. Because if we look at a lot of music these days, a lot of music videos, you don't see a black man loving and getting close to another black woman in many cases. They'll either put a non-black woman there or a white woman there, or in the case of a black female performer, they'll put a white man there or a foreign woman or foreign man there. Again, not to promote black on black love, because they want to promote the idea of white supremacy, and they want to have people thinking that the black person loving another black person is inferior, when in actuality it is one of the greatest things you could ever experience, is sharing love with another black person. And that's something, sadly, that is leaving black music, because black people have not grown up in environments that foster and promote black love. Those types of environments are becoming rare, and it's sad because people don't know how beautiful black love is, and they don't know that it was that love that people experienced that inspired them to create some of the greatest music ever created in history. If you'd like to try some of my black love stories, like The Temptation of John Haynes, Spinsterella, and A Recipe for Success, you can pick up those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle formats. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, E-Steam: The Sands of Time. It's action and adventure in ancient Egypt in this terrific teen time travel romance. Get your copy of E-Steam: The Sands of Time at your favorite online bookseller today.